We should watch 50 Shades of Grey.
That's a movie. We could.
We should watch it for Valentine's Day.
That would be a good idea. I've never actually seen it. Let us know. I'm recording, so I'll tell chat. Let us know in the comments below. Do you want to see 50 Shades of Grey?
Wait, I didn't know you were recording. I didn't know you were recording.
I literally just pressed record.
Oh my god.
Honestly,
Bro, you gotta give me a heads
50
up
Shades
before
of
I
Grey
say
would be
stuff like that.
crazy.
well, I was
We
gonna
can watch the entire trilogy, guys.
wait. It's a trilogy.
50 Shades Darker is better, but I think no, you'd understand Darker without knowing the first one.
Oh, so it's like Star Wars, where the second one's better.
Yeah, second one is the best in the series. Third one is not that good.
Yeah. Okay. So like Star.
Yeah, I guess.
The shade begun. Greetings, media gremlins, and welcome to the Screenwrite podcast, which is the maybe only podcast that watches and reviews movies, provides a rating to them, and then that's it. About so get into the ride. I don't know. Yep. But today is the maybe anticipated, who knows, conclusion to the Star Wars trilogy with the Star Wars, wow, with Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi, which was released in 1983, directed by Richard Marquand and written by let me get the correct information to you guys. Um, Lawrence Kasdan, who returned from Empire Strikes Back. Um, the masterpiece, as I rated it in the version, which you can watch right here on the eye icon in the YouTube version. But yeah, so released in 1983. This was the conclusion to the trilogy, the very anticipated conclusion to the trilogy. Um, and George Lucas, series creator, had always been really changing his plan for the franchise. At one point, there was supposed to be 4 trilogies total of all Luke Skywalker, and then, or no, not of all Luke Skywalker, but there was a plan to extend the Luke Skywalker saga through an third trilogy, episodes 7, 8, and 9, which did happen, but not under Lucas's watch. Obviously, that was all Disney. Um, but yeah, George Lucas is still facing burnout. That's why he decides he wants to wrap everything up in this film with the Luke Skywalker saga. He finds a new director and scraps the one from episode 5 because he wants someone that he can control a bit more. And yeah, which Richard Marquand obviously has his own. Um, he's a director. He gives his own input to the film and makes it. But of course, George Lucas heavily watching over this. Um, but and then as a last brief point for introducing the film, um, Return of the Jedi is also the most recent Star Wars film to be selected by the Library of Congress for preservation, which was in the National Film Registry, which was in 2021. Um, but without further ado, screw the movie. I'd rather introduce the folks on your screen other than this. So, something witty. He's really cool. It's Dion.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, thank you.
I can't think of anything creative today, so something less witty, but there's a pun involved. Ha ha ha. Give it up for Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
These are two of my great friends, and we review movies. We're the millionth podcast to do it, but we understand that we're trying something new. And hopefully, some of us are film background, some of us aren't, and all of us have different expertises in different genres too. So when we go through movies, we'll all have different opinions, different tastes, and different things to talk about, which I am excited for because Star Wars, Lauren here has never seen, and I have
Nope.
seen this probably a million times. So before we get into the movie, Lauren, first reaction, how are you feeling?
Bro, I really don't know what just happened.
Yeah,
I have no clue.
I will say we probably should have shown you episodes 4 and 5 first, but I know you probably struggled to get through this, so that would have been
So,
another 4 hours.
oh my god.
It's a commitment. It's a commitment to get through these movies. If you get through all nine, that's 19 hours,
Ain't no way.
20 hours probably. So you could do it in a day, but you just can't sleep. Um,
You can sleep for 5 hours.
yeah, well, yeah, that's fair. I could do it. Uh, but
Oh my god.
on the contrary, we have Dion here who has seen the Star Wars franchise, like me, is a fan of it. So rewatching The Return of the Jedi, how do you feel? Were there any things that you felt different about this watch around?
I would say every time I rewatched it, I had a bit of nostalgia in there this time. Not as much nostalgia, so kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when you go into a movie knowing you're going to critique it, it kind of sheds the I'm watching this for fun, and you start to
Mhm.
nitpick at all of the small things. Um, which, as you will see here, I have a lot of nitpicks in my notes. Um, so, with that being said, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to say. Um, I don't think so. Just let's find out if A New Hope can live up to, or A New Hope, whoops. Let's find out if Return of the Jedi can live up to the praise that A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back had received. And if
I
the
think the Jedi shouldn't have returned in the first place.
Starting off strong.
starting off strong, um, yeah, there's a lot of brief moments I'm gonna mention. I have my notes, so if you see me scrolling through here,
You're good.
um, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot to nitpick and mention, but yeah, let's find out. Does the movie do well? Does it flop? Who knows? So for those of you who don't know, the Screenwrite critique revolves around in-depth considerations of a film's screenplay and on-screen elements. On-screen elements are known as mise en scène, which is a French term, I believe, literally translating to on the screen or something like that, or the act of putting onto the screen, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have broader considerations for sound and editing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, without further ado, let's look at screenplay. Um, so, this is a movie that you wouldn't understand unless you watched episodes 4 and 5.
Very factual.
Very, yeah. Um, and we'll get into. I'm very curious to hear though from someone who hasn't seen the other movies as a
Mm-hmm.
standalone how this will rate because I'm sure it's going to be considerably lower than us, who which is good because understanding a film from a standalone point is often better. Um, even if maybe not in terms of screenplay, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting that non-biased opinion. So we see the title crawl, which always tells us what's going on. Turns out Luke is on a mission to save Han Solo, who, when last we saw, was being carbon frozen in The Empire Strikes Back and brought to Jabba the Hutt by Boba Fett, the bounty hunter. And meanwhile, the Empire is rebuilding the Death Star. Um, so we'll get to the first big sequence, which is obviously the Tatooine one where we go into Jabba's palace. And not gonna lie, when I rewatched the scene from a critical standpoint, it fell apart for me quickly. So I'm
Ooh.
curious to hear what you guys have to say because there's a lot that goes on in the scene that I think were poor choices to different regards. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Go first,
Dion, you go
Lauren.
first. Oh no
Oh.
no no no! You go first. You go first.
Drama.
All right.
You
Well.
finish.
All right. So just in the beginning sequence of when they enter the Jabba the Hutt's palace or whatnot, I don't know. I felt like they could have definitely did it a bit different. Like I feel like they overcomplicated the plan to get Han out, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of caused way more commotion than what needed to be caused. I
Mm-hmm.
think. Yeah, I don't know, cause I don't want to say too much, but like essentially, I feel like if the whole plan was to eventually have Luke come in or whatnot, like he could have came in with a bigger show of force, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Could have just like honestly at his skill level, he could have taken out Jabba the Hutt like instantly. So
Right.
I don't know why it was just such a like you
Right.
know
Like he could have just walked in with his lightsaber. Uh,
easily, yeah.
yeah. Um, Lauren, from your standpoint, what are some things that you thought were maybe great, whether it's visually or screenplay, or maybe not so great?
Okay. So, um, I think I'm gonna be honest. Only thing that really stood out to me in this entire movie was like that 15-minute dance sequence with Jabba the Hutt.
I'm just gonna bring that up. Yep.
So, in terms of screenplay, I'm pretty sure it's much better to someone who understands what's going on. I didn't understand a single thing other than Jabba the Hutt
Right.
likes to dance.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So that's all I gathered.
Yeah. So I guess to build off on that, 2 points that I would like to bring up. I think
Hmm.
we have a very fun sequence. It's obviously very iconic. And when I say it fell apart for me, I mean I just didn't like it as much as I did with the nostalgia factor when I would watch for fun. Um, because I noticed some very small moments in this portion where R2D2 almost nods his head, which isn't that big of a deal, but it shows that they've gotten really used to working with the robotics and their props. And I thought that was a good point of like being able to do that. I also noticed this time around that um Luke Skywalker force chokes those guards in Jabba's palace, which kind of shows that he's maybe getting closer to the dark side, which is the whole plot of this film that Luke is being tempted by the dark side. So to just have that moment in the beginning, I thought was really like a cool small thing, but it's good setup. Um, so overall, I like how we have this like really cool fight scene. Um, we get some really cool, just some moments that really help to set everything up. Um, Going off of the dance scene, I think that's where I lost a few like in this situation because um I've been critical of episodes 4 and 5 for not showing that much diversity in its casting. Leia was the only female character,
Hmm.
and in A New Hope there were no um, people of color who got any on-screen time. I think.
Mm.
Um, so this was obviously like the final film in the franchise to kind of step it up. And while I do think they step it up a tiny bit, um, this scene kind of also pushes it back because we have a character, I forget her name, who's an exotic slave and gets fed to the Rancor, which is the monster. Um, which we had her backstory is that she was kidnapped, taught exotic dancing, and then became a slave. And then also the whole slave Leia thing, which Carrie Fisher, who portrays Princess Leia, had said multiple times that she was uncomfortable with doing it. But she was glad that she got to kill Jabba. She was glad that was written into the script, so that's why she was able to put up with it so much. But
Mhm.
she said that it made her feel uncomfortable, which makes sense. So I don't know how you guys feel. This is 1983 when, granted it's what, 40 years ago. So I guess a long
Mhm.
time has passed. But
Yeah.
and things were different back then. But nowadays, if that were to happen, I'm not so sure. I think I would be very like, ugh. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know. That was just my thought. Other than that, it's not the biggest qualm, um, because, like I said, given the time that it came out, it's obviously got a lot of different interpretations, and um, yeah. So I don't know if
Yeah.
any of you guys disagree with me there, but um,
No, I think if it came out now in like present time, the only thing that would besides like the only thing I think would receive like a lot of criticism was the outfit that they put Leia in
right,
once she became like a prisoner.
right,
I think if it was just like she was just a regular prisoner of war and like
yeah,
was just like in chains, it wouldn't been that big of a deal. But it's
that,
the
yep.
the weird outfit that like is like a whatever, like kind
And
of
the whole Jabba licking his lips or whatever with
yeah,
his
yeah,
tongue and like
really
using his
creepy.
tail to pet her. Yeah, it's creepy, but
Hmm.
I think it doesn't bring down the message of the film. It's just trying to show that he's an asshole, which he is.
Hmm. Yeah,
But they could have done a much better way to show that.
yeah.
Um, So, in the end, Jabba dies, Han Solo's freed, and they all get on with their lives. Um,
Hmm.
we see that Luke um, goes off to Dagobah, where he sees poor Yoda die and choke for like 5 minutes straight.
Oh my god.
It's not really a problem. I just find it funny that he would keep going, Luke, Luke, like, and then you think he'd be done, and he'd just say it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun scene, but it means a lot for the film, which
Hmm.
I liked. So, nothing really big happens here. What I will say, and I don't know, you guys can disagree with me on this or not, is I kind of felt like this scene was not rushed, but it was clear that it was written to just put a ton of information in at once so that the film can move forward, like an info dump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't even. I would say it's a slight info dump, but the only major thing that he revealed was that there's another Skywalker. The rest of that
right.
was kind of like filler talk, because like he was
Mhm.
like, I'm a Jedi." He's like, "No, you got to go talk to Vader and whatnot, like confront Vader." But it just felt like a lot of filler. I forgot how long that scene was, but
Yeah.
it was pretty drawn out.
I think it's like 20, it's 15 to 20 minutes total because
Hmm.
we see Yoda die and then Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi come onto screen.
Yeah.
Um, as a casual watcher, Lauren,
Hmm.
how did that whole dump of information feel to you? Was it helpful or was it just like I'm lost? There's so much going on.
Like I said before, Matt, literally the only scene that I understood was the one with Jabba the Hutt.
Okay.
Hmm.
Everything else after that, like I understood what was happening in the moment, but I didn't understand why it mattered, if
Mattered.
that makes
Hmm.
Yeah,
sense.
that's fair, which uh, makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of sense. Um But yeah, so it's just a big information dump. We find out that Ben has they never told they never told Luke about um Vader being his father because it's subjective that Anakin really did die, but Anakin died and Darth Vader was born. Something. Clearly a little bit like a rush. We need to kind of nail this in. It works, and as we'll see in the um prequels, it works really well. But you can tell it's kind of just mushed in there to try to get it to work. And then
Mhm.
we find out that Luke has a twin sister. This twin sister was always a part of the Star Wars plan, but it was never supposed to be Leia until Lucas said, "You know what? I've had enough." So Leia kind of gets pushed into that position, which again works. Um, I think all of the plot works. Um, but now that we have all this information, Luke takes it, and we go to the Rebel fleet where we find out that we have another female character, which is believe it or not, the first female character that's not Carrie Fisher with a speaking role. Um, and she and Admiral Akbar announced that Bothan spies have tracked down the new Death Star. Lando Calrissian will lead an attack against the station, while a ground attack on Endor, led by Han Solo, who's now a general, will deactivate the station's shield generators. So, this brings us to our Endor sequence. And I want to ask you guys, did you like that little speeder scene where we have Leia and Luke um, chasing down those scout troopers?
Um, can I be indifferent about it?
Yeah, yeah, you can be indifferent.
Yeah, because it's like it's whatever. I don't. Yeah, I wasn't too impressed by it. It wasn't like a bad scene though.
Yeah. Um, you, Lauren?
Yeah, I remember I think it was this semester. I literally had to write a paper on how it was a paper on how women are treated in the film industry. And one of the I was doing research and like all the stuff, and one of the biggest things that came up was like Leia overall in this specific movie. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember them talking about how like she's like a person who's meant to be like, like a leader. She's a powerful woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they put her in the most sexualized outfit possible to like take away attention from what she's actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So it's kind of just like I was watching it like after having to write that, watching that, I was just like, "Oh yeah, they're not lying."
Yep.
It's like I don't know. It felt like they just I don't know. It felt like they just kind of decided they wanted to keep the idea that she's like a powerful woman in there, so nobody can be like, "You just put her in there for like sex appeal or something like that."
Yep. And it's
Mhm.
very interesting that you say that because in A New Hope, the first one, she's the damsel in distress, the
Mhm.
Mhm.
classic
Mhm.
role. In episode 5, she's an emotional it's the stereotype that women are emotional, which ends up getting them. It's one of the reasons why they end up getting caught,
Mhm.
because she doesn't know how to communicate, and that's like her big flaw. And for her character, like it all makes sense as a good story, but it's just stereotype after stereotype after stereotype being built in when she's already written as a strong character, that yeah shouldn't have been objectified, and
Mhm.
they could have made so much more of her role, especially in this film.
Mhm.
um, but they kind of ended off on this idea that Solo's in charge of the ground assault, Lando's in
Mhm.
charge of the air or the space assault, and Luke is in charge of the
Yeah.
lightsabering.
Yeah, and then
Uh,
also like in the paper, it was like in an article I read, it was like she'll have these like bouts of like quote unquote like strong woman moment,
Mm-hmm.
but then her overall story arc relies on the fact that she's just like the love interest.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Literally, like half this movie, I noticed that too. Like half this movie, it'll be like strong woman moment, then it's like, Han, hold me, or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's
Like
always like the guy has
cherish me,
to come
kiss
in
me.
and get like the
Yeah.
last
Mm-hmm.
part, like take away that last
Hmm.
part of her story.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what I really like about the speeder sequence in particular, when she and Luke are fighting, and then she gets secluded, finds the Ewok and works with the Ewok.
Hmm.
That's when we saw like her, one of the moments that we saw her true leadership and true charisma blossom. And then we quickly get into she's at the Endor camp, or not the Ewok camp,
Hmm.
and she's got all this long hair in a dress, and she kind of just looks like she's being cared for, like a princess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's like back and forth, like never consistent, and I think we unfortunately never get that final conclusion, because I will get to it, but at the end of the movie, it's like I love you, Han, and then that's like a wrap on her story. Um,
Hmm.
as we'll see in episode 7 through 9, we get more Princess Leia, and I feel like for as much shit as the new movies get, which I know Lauren, you wouldn't know any of this. I feel like they do a good job of reversing that and showing like just how powerful she is, because spoiler alert for episode 7, cover your ears.
I'm covering my ears.
Han Solo dies, and then it's kind
No
of
way.
yeah, shocking. Um, and then it's just left to Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, to kind of pick up after that and like show who she is. We see her broadcast the Force in episode 8.
Yeah.
In episode 9, she's responsible for providing the final push in inspiration to pull out and win
Yeah.
in the end of episode 9. So they really give her that power position in the last movies, but this one, this series trilogy for sure. That's a really good plot point, or not plot point, but topic point to
Hmm.
mention.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, speaking of the Ewok camp, we get there. It's funny. We get some funny moments with everyone's about to die and get cooked, but Luke levitates C-3PO into the air because they believe he's a god, the Ewoks. Um,
He's so cute.
yeah, it's great. It's a great little moment, funny, and reminds us that this is not always like drama. It's an
Yeah.
opera. Like we're supposed to get these funny moments. Um uh so from there we start to move into the final sequence of the movie, where Luke realizes he has to go. He basically tells Leia that they're siblings.
Hmm.
So Luke turns himself in, gets captured, and goes with Darth Vader to the throne room. Um, and then we have Luke, Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2, some rebels, and the Ewoks going to the shield generator, and um, Lando Calrissian's squadron of ships are making a surprise attack on the new Death Star.
Yeah.
But because the Emperor, who is the big force behind this movie, and technically all of the movies, but in this one we really see him actually. Um, this He knows that all of this is happening. So while it may be a surprise attack, he foresaw it, and um, he's prepared. So let's start off with the ground assault on the shield
Mhm.
generator. Um, how do you guys? what are some specific takeaways that you felt watching this? Was it a fun little fight to watch, or uh was it the expectations that you had for a Star Wars movie or a movie in general?
Dion.
I would say it was a fun fight. I really liked the fight
Mm.
because it kind of showed the Ewoks really doing their thing. As far as a Star Wars fight, I would say growing up, I was very much spoiled with I guess like what the prequels brought as far as like action and
Right,
like the gun battles. So the gun battles were very like very whatever to me. And of course, it's like the 80s; they can only do so much.
right.
And at the same time, it also that fight sequence revealed that the resistance, like I get they're underfunded and like supposed to be like a this is our last chance to do anything in almost every battle, but like they always seem to be like unprepared or
Mm-hmm.
like always like they never fully have control of the situation.
Yep,
Someone always has to jump on them. 'Cause if Leia didn't find the Ewoks and then C3PO didn't talk to them, like they would have died
yep.
if it wasn't for the Ewoks. So I don't know. I felt like the resistance needs some work
Yeah,
on their coordination.
and to even go off of that, I also did kind of note that there were some cheap moments. Like, there just so happened to be logs that were the perfect
Yeah,
height to smash ATSTs, which were the little walkers.
yeah.
Um, which it's like, okay, I don't know why they just magically had that, but I think overall it's effective in doing its job and getting us where we need
Hmm.
to. Um,
I
wa-
also agree.
yeah, I know from an outsider point of view, Lauren,
Yeah, like
watching.
I don't have anything to truly like compare it to,
Hmm.
and I don't really have expectations for Star Wars as is. So for
Hmm.
me, it was just like, oh, a fight, nice.
Yeah, and it's probably even more fun just watching teddy bears
Bro, I
take
freaking love
down
Ewoks. They're
men.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
cute.
Yep.
Also, I just thought it's funny that the Ewoks had like a never-ending supply of like rocks. Like
Right.
Hey, hey, don't
Yeah.
they're
question them.
like
Don't
Yeah.
question my boys. Don't question my
like it was just
boys.
constant flurry of rocks. I'm like, where'd they come from?
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Um. So yeah, that's that sequence. It's very. It gets us where we need to effectively, and it's fun. It's iconic because, especially, it's not something that it's original. It's very original.
Hmm.
So we have that. I'm not really gonna talk about the Lando Calrissian spaceship stuff because that also does what it needs to. We
Hmm.
find out that it's a trap from Admiral Akbar, famous line. Um, we've they fly around, they do their thing, and eventually get into the Death Star so they can destroy it because um, they were successful on the ground assault and were able to blow up the shield generator.
Yeah. I have one thing with the spaceship battle part is that can't they communicate like even if they're like a hyperspace jump away
Hmm.
from like I forgot the name of the planet, but if they're like, can't they still communicate and like wait for like a relay from like the ground team to be like, hey, we destroyed the generator?
So
Like,
they mention it briefly, and as a Star Wars fanatic who has played every single game, it's easier for me to pick up on. But for like a first time casual watcher, they mention briefly that our communications have been disabled, and that was like
mhm,
the full thing that like made them realize it's a trap. Um,
yeah,
but in the Star Wars universe, if communications are disabled, that means like their complete radio, satellite, whatever you want to call it, has been
hmm,
like turned off, disabled. And I don't know how they're able to still communicate with the ships around them. Um, they never really fully explain it, which I think is one of the like hindrances, the small pr- problems with this moment. But
yeah.
yeah, um,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah.
Kind of.
No, the role, yeah, exactly. They really should have done a better job explaining it. Which just if you can't tell what I'm getting at, which I'll get to in the rating, there's a lot of rushed moments in this
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's a 2.5 hour movie. Like, they had to fit a lot in, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still super long. Um, so lastly, we have our the sequence scene, with Darth Vader, the Emperor, trying to turn Luke to the dark side. Um, Darth Darth Vader fights Luke and tries to convert him over. And even though Luke has brought down his father, Darth Vader, um, it was not enough to truly bring out the hate in him. He stands as a Jedi and, um, has made the Emperor fail. And because of that, the Emperor's like, alright, well, I'll just kill him. Um, so he tries to kill him, and Darth Vader's like, no, you're not gonna kill my son. So he steps up like a good father, which is hard to find nowadays, and he kills in quotation marks, because as we'll see in episode 9, not
No spoilers.
really.
No spoilers.
We're ruining this
Oh my
trilogy
god.
again. Sorry. Yeah. Um but for this for the purposes of this trilogy, let's just say the Emperor dies.
Okay.
And then they go out to the ship. Uh, Darth Vader's like, "Take off my mask. I want to see you with my own eyes." And that's probably the reason he dies, but he dies.
Yeah.
So, um, I want to ask in terms of this specific part. Um, was there any confusion with what the motives were here? Because I think they talked in circles a lot, about what was wanted, and they were always phrasing it differently. Um, was this scene confusing to you, Lauren? I know you said all of them were, but like, did you understand what they were trying to say?
I think I did.
Okay.
What were they trying to say? Because now I'm scared.
They were trying to say, um, that if we turn Luke's hate, and bring out his hatred, then he will be able to access the dark side, and then we will have converted him, and he will be my new apprentice. This is the
Mhm.
Emperor talking.
Oh no, I did not get that.
Yeah, they
Oh.
talk in circles, which I
I was
noticed.
so lost.
Yeah, uh, I don't know if I mean, obviously, as people have watched this, we understand it. But what would you say in regards to this specific scene? Whether it is the talking, or the fighting in general?
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Are you talking?
sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
I was
oh,
like,
as far as I feel like, yeah, they were talking in circles. Like the Chancellor, or the Emperor, I mean,
Yeah.
just kept repeating the same things over and over again, and like I only knew what he was talking about because I watched it again. Because like from the start, you can't really tell that his end goal was for Luke to replace Darth Vader. It would seem like his end goal was just for Luke to join them, and
Mhm.
then he had like a third.
Yep.
And without prior knowledge of like the rule of two and all that good stuff, like you wouldn't know that he was trying
Right.
to replace Darth Vader in that fight. And it's funny because I guess I don't know, I just thought about this, but I guess Palpatine never taught Vader the rule of two
Yeah. No.
because he would have picked up on that and been
That's a
like,
great
"You're
point.
trying to get rid of me" or something. And so I was just kind of like, yeah, for first time watcher, just like I thought there were gonna be three of them, but no,
Mhm.
he's that's been his plan all along. And then also
Yeah.
I forgot to mention earlier, but and you mentioned that from the jump is showing that Luke's like leaning towards the dark side, and I mentioned how the whole Jabba the Hutt scene where Luke takes forever to come in and save the day.
Mhm.
I thought about it, and maybe that was also an indicator he kept putting his friends in danger, like
Hmm.
sending them one after another,
Right.
as an indicator that he's more willing to risk lives to get what he
Hmm.
wants, and him leaning more towards the dark side as
Right.
well. But
Because
yeah,
we saw what happened. Like he
yeah,
got all of his friends in prison and about to be thrown into a pit. And like, what
hmm
if he didn't catch that lightsaber? Which
yeah,
obviously he
literally,
would. But like, there's so much that you have to consider for that to go perfectly that
hmm
he really is becoming a risk factor. Which is
hmm
why this film's title was originally Revenge of the Jedi. Because it was
hmm
supposed to show that kind of deep
darkness,
darkness, but
hmm
Jedi don't get revenge is the whole shtick. So
yeah,
George Lucas changed the title, but yeah,
yeah,
it's a very what I will say in terms of screenplay, which I guess will bring us to the end of our wrap up, is that this movie does an excellent job of showing Luke Skywalker's final um, uh, coming to terms with who he is and
yeah,
bringing out the light in him. We end on a low note in Empire Strikes Back. That really brings out his inner demons, and then those get brought into this movie, which he has to work to fight against and destroy.
hmm
Um, so, um, I guess to get into the rating portion of screenplay, um, I would probably give. So when I originally wrote my script for the produced version of this, I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. But I think now I'm gonna bring it down to 3 stars out of 5. I can't do 2.5 because it's still a very great and iconic movie. But to the same degree, there's a lot that you have to factor in, like these very rushed moments, awkward pace, long movie, um, and just the the stuff with um, Jabba's palace and um, the I don't know how to phrase it, but how poorly Carrie Fisher gets treated.
treat it, yeah.
Yep. So you guys, how do you feel? What rating would you give to screenplay?
I would give it. I'm gonna go lower than you actually,
Right.
because I had a lot of things. I'll probably get like a 2.5 out of 5. Of course, including everything I mentioned earlier. But even I guess they can't. It's not really this movie's fault, but the prequel's fault.
Mhm.
But Leia mentioned like remembering her mother,
Yep.
and I was like, you can't
Yes.
remember your mother
Yep.
if your mother died like giving birth to you.
Yep.
So I was just like, even that, like, it didn't help that
I
they didn't tie that in right. But yeah, so
I
that's why.
actually I think I have that written. Is it written into the script? I didn't read the entire script through, but I know I did bring that up at one point.
Hmm
Which you really can't blame this movie for. You kind of have
Yeah.
to blame the prequels. Um, but still, right, exactly. It's a great
hmm
point. Lauren, your
Yes.
unbiased view of this screenplay.
Unbiased view. I think it's not fair
That's
for
fair.
me to genuinely give a rating because I haven't seen anything
That's
leading up to
fair.
it.
You can
So
abstain if you want.
I don't want to abstain, but I will give it a 2.1.
Okay. Sounds good.
And here's my reasoning.
hmm hmm
2.1 only needs 2.9 more points, right? To become a 5,
hmm
right?
Yeah.
So maybe if I watch the other two, they'll each get 1 point, and that'll add up to 5 eventually.
Right.
Or the
Yeah,
whole trilogy.
and I
Yes,
will say,
the whole trilogy.
I will say, I think I gave 4.5 stars out of 5 to screenplay and Empire Strikes Back, if I recall.
hmm
Might have been 5, but no, I think it was 4.5. So well, so you say 2.1 stars. Dion says 2.5. I say 3. So let's just round it out at 2.5. Overall.
Okay.
Okay.
So that brings us next into I'm just looking over my other notes. Well, we already got through that. So that moves us into costume design. Um,
One.
I'll let you really.
One. They did lay it dirty, so everybody else gets the
Okay.
stick for it.
Yep.
One.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. One, if you have one bad costume, it can really bring down a film. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
while back in the day this film would have gotten 5 stars, I think that how Slave Leia has been studied throughout film so much, especially in recent years, I think it's
Yeah.
very fitting to bring down costume design for this
Mhm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
film. Which I don't know. What would you say, Dion?
Uh, I do hate Leia's costumes all throughout this movie. They're too much and could have been something different.
Hmm.
So I'll say probably like a
He's
two,
sexist.
because, huh?
He's sexist.
Just a two, only because I do like Luke's costume being all black. I
Hmm.
do like
That
they
is
did a really
true.
good job with like the creatures and stuff for what they had back in the day, like what they
Hmm.
had to work with. So I can't discount them there, but yeah, Leia's costumes bring everything down
Yep.
like dramatically.
So, uh, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna break the tie and go in the middle. I have 1.5 stars down because mostly
Mhm.
because of Slave Leia, and I know a lot of people on the internet hate the Ewoks. Um, a lot of people do. So this is me taking the internet's opinion and just applying it.
Screw
So
them. I love the Ewoks.
I do
I
They're
too.
love the
I do
adorable.
too.
Ewoks.
But the internet, if you go on Reddit, there's like threads about how much the Ewoks suck.
Oh,
It's
brother,
What?
Reddit.
Yep. It's but then again, it's Reddit. But a
Oh
lot of
Yeah,
god,
people
I
hate
don't
the
use that.
Ewok. You're right.
that's crazy.
No taste. No taste.
Yeah,
Have they seen how cute they are?
yeah, I agree. But with that being said, if I feel like if Slave Leia alone was not in this movie, I would have given the category the full 5 stars. Um,
Yeah.
uh, because we get absolutely iconic the Scout Troopers, which is really a
Hmm.
really iconic outfit and probably
Hmm.
one of the most famous in the franchise, reasonably. And for that, this category deserves every single point that it can get. And then can't really see them in this movie, but the Emperor's Guards with
Oh
those
yeah,
red
all
cloaks,
red.
yep,
Hmm.
absolutely amazing. So I wish I could give this the full 5 stars, but when the actress behind the costume is saying she was uncomfortable in it, and just how poorly it reflects on film history, you have to bring it down. And I know a lot of people will disagree because that outfit is iconic to their childhood, but we're ranking by current standards. We're not
Hmm.
1983 standards going back in the day. Also, I have a
I
back
will
scratcher.
say
It's fun to
I
hold.
will say Darth Vader's outfit goes hard.
It does.
That is like the
It
hardest outfit
does.
I've ever seen.
Yep.
So maybe I'll do a 1.3 for my man
Okay.
Darth.
Sounds good. We'll round it out at 1.5 since that seems to be like the middle
Yeah.
Hmm.
consensus. Um, so next we have the acting category. Um, whoever wants to go first here can go. Or I
I'll
can.
go first. I'll
Okay.
go first. I think acting was good.
Yes.
I think you can't hate the acting. You can hate the storyline. I always say like in a movie you can hate the storyline, you can hate everything about it, but if the acting's good, the acting's good.
Yep.
Hmm.
Like a good actor can make a bad movie bearable.
Yep.
And I think everyone in this movie was really good, especially for like the year.
Mhm.
Because I know
Yeah.
acting changes
Yep.
as we like progress. I think it was really good. So I'd give it like is it out of 5?
Yeah. It's out of 5.
Like a 4.3.
Yep. Um.
Um. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give it a four, I'll give it a 4.5. I have no qualms with the acting. I mean, it is what
Mhm.
it is. I like it. No one was sounded like soap opera acting, so
Yep.
it was good for me.
Yep. And for me, I actually gave the full 5 stars because I didn't personally see any flaws. Um, which is hard to say because there's always got to be something. But I think we just have a lot of iconic lines come out of this film, and especially with the script, our cast does like
Hmm.
the best that they can make out of it in any given circumstance.
Yeah.
Which I want to. I'll get to that eventually, actually, which will be in the Patreon only version. But when we get to the best actor performance, I'll highlight who I think just absolutely crushes this film. Um, so by the way, yeah, just a short break here in the middle, but Patreon prices have slashed in half. The lowest tier is
Woo!
now $3. You get access to exclusive posts and the community Discord. We don't have any patrons yet, so you can be our first. That's not to say that we don't have a community already. Our Twitch community has been transitioned into, or my old Twitch community has been transitioned into Demize Studios. So we have a whole group of people behind us, and for just $3, you can join us and get so much more benefits with it. So, including the exclusive version of this podcast. But yeah, break aside and advertisement aside, let's go to setting.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I gave setting the full 5 stars. um, because I feel like there are issues with the setting that do not come as a result of the setting itself. Um,
Hmm.
which I'll get to. Oh, well, you know what? I'm gonna lump these categories together. Oh, by the way, for the last category, I never said it, but I'll just give 4.5 stars because that seemed to
Mm-hmm.
be the middle.
Okay.
Um, but so I'm gonna talk about setting and lighting together. Setting, I'll give
Hmm.
the 5 stars. Lighting, I'm going to give 3 stars because I think this film relied heavily on the green screen, and
Mm-hmm.
the green screen for 1983 was very innovative and fun and new, but there was not appropriate lighting. So you like during the speeder sequence, there were a lot of shadows, a lot of darkness on um the characters, and it didn't always work.
Hmm.
Um so for that, I think the setting is beautiful. Seeing Endor, Dagobah, Tatooine, having these extreme biomes, but that's where I'm at. How do you guys feel?
Want me to go?
Yeah.
All right. I think setting, I'll go like 4.8. I think it's really good, but I also think it's hard for me. There has to be reasoning behind me giving a 5.
Right.
It has to be exceptional.
Perfection.
But
Yeah.
like Star Wars, I think there's no setting like it.
Yep.
Like I feel like this is just like that movie. Like a lot of movies happen like in space and stuff, but there's really no setting like Star Wars.
Right.
So I think it's really good, especially like for the once again like you said for what year? 1983?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I think for 1983 it was done really well. It was like it seems like a huge universe from
It
like what
is.
I've seen. Yeah,
Yep.
so like I feel like that's really cool. And then lighting, I'll give like a 3.6 because I didn't really notice anything, but
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I'll say setting. I'll give it 12.5. I couldn't like they didn't have any like useless areas in there. The
Mhm.
like just like random flashes, like a location that was like irrelevant or anything like that.
Yep.
And I feel like every setting was like styled pretty well for
Mhm.
like what it was supposed to be. Lighting, I don't know much about lighting, because I'm not a film guy.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 because I don't know
Okay.
much. It like I didn't notice it,
Yeah,
so
you can abstain too from any
I'll
edit.
abstain. I'll actually
Okay.
abstain. I don't want my vote to affect it.
Okay. So in terms of setting, we have five. What'd you say? Full
I think I said
five.
4.8.
12.5, yeah.
Yeah, and I said 4.8.
So we'll give 5 stars.
Hmm.
And then I said three for lighting. What'd you say, Lauren?
I said 3.6, I think.
Something like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So we'll round it out. Oh boy, that's a hard one to find an average for because it's technically 3.3. Um,
3.3333.
let's round up. Let's say 3.5. Um, yep.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Okay. So that brings us to our last two. I'm gonna start with sound, which these are broad categories, so they're only worth 3 points each. Sound, giving the full 3 stars because one, there's nothing wrong with it, which is like just enough for me to give 3 stars. But secondly, Star Wars just has a music track unlike any other film.
Yeah.
John Williams, the composer, providing excellent orchestra, um, legendary composer, highly accredited to this day. So there's no reason to not give 3, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I agree. I think the sound and everything fine. No one sounded like out of whack. And of course the soundtrack is amazing as usual. I love it. It just sets right in the mood of like getting into the world, so I
Hmm.
love it. Full 3.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go 3 because I think Star Wars is also like one of the most notable soundtracks out there. Like and
Yep.
like
Mhm.
sound effects and everything. Like you know something's from Star Wars, even if you
Right.
haven't seen it like me. Like you just know, and I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yep. To have that power, it's like you
Hmm.
should get more than the 3 out of 3 stars. But I'm not going to because that's cheating. But it's really, it's iconic, innovative, and very uh powerful. Um, so that brings us into the last category, which is editing. Um, I'll get to what I think last. I want to hear what you guys think.
All
Go
right,
ahead,
Dion.
Lauren.
Oh, okay.
And
Ooh.
by the way, editing includes anything done in post production. So that includes
Okay. So even
CGI.
sound and stuff. Yeah.
I feel like it's a golf club.
I'm gonna say this is out of 3, right? Just for
Yes. Yep.
editing, I'll give it right in the middle. I'll go 2 because I'm critical for like CGI and like some of the mainly CGI,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's 1983,
Yeah.
so it's like
2005 actually for some of
oh
the CGI.
2005.
So some of the CGI, like that dance scene,
Oh
with the
brother,
singer, that was
I know that
added
one.
in a 2005 DVD remake of the
All
film.
right, but even then, the fact that you said DVD remake kind of proves my point.
Yep.
It's old. It's old. The technology wasn't there. It wasn't the best it could be. It
Hmm.
probably wasn't the best it could be in that time. But at the same
Right.
time, I feel like a lot of their focus goes into the actual setting
Hmm.
around it, since it's literally in space.
Yep.
So I feel like I can't be too harsh, but I can't like give it a full 3.
Yep.
With what you guys just said, taking into consideration, I think I'm gonna go a little low on this one, probably like a 1.5, only because you mentioned that they did go over some stuff in 2005,
Hmm.
and I think out of everything to like rebrush over, and of course they added Hayden Christensen, I think that's his last name,
Right. Yep.
Anakin in the end and stuff like that, and to go back over in 2005 and make all those like changes in CGI and add scenes in, they could have probably like brushed up on a few things, like just on overall like appearance and maybe even fake some lighting. Maybe I don't know too much about editing,
Yeah.
but I feel like they could have did
They
something
could have.
extra to like bring it all together. So I'm gonna go a little bit lower
Yeah.
because yeah.
Yeah, I gave it 1.5 stars because I feel like the editing has a lot of moments where it shines and really helps the movie, and then I think it has a lot of moments where it helps to, or where it really makes it fall apart. So I gave 1.5 because some of the CGI I was like, I don't know if we needed to include that.
Mhm.
We could have just stuck with what we originally had. Um, but also, I think it's good, like you said, we added Hayden Christensen, which is Anakin Skywalker from the prequels. He shows up as a Force ghost at the end. We have an added scene where we see the galaxy celebrating the collapse of the Empire, which is effective to show like this is a galactic victory. Um, and then to go back onto the bad side of things, I feel like the construction of scenes also helped to contribute to the awkward pace of the film. So I went down the middle, 1.5 as well. Um,
Mhm.
so we'll do 1.5 because that was the majority. So with all of that being said, um, Star Wars Return of the Jedi has received 21.5 stars out of a 31, a possible 31,
Not
and
bad.
out of 5. Oh god, why did I do this? Hey, it's 69%.
No
Mm.
way.
So that's about 3.2 stars out of 5. Um, no, 3.5 stars out of 5, I think. Yeah, because that's about 0.7. Yeah, 3.5 stars out of 5. Um, Rotten Tomatoes agrees, being uh actually no, Rotten Tomatoes kind of disagrees. They have it at a higher rating, which I think is because of nostalgia being a heavy
Mhm.
factor, and a lot of critics will rate based off of 1983 terms. So they gave it 4.2 stars out of 5, or 83% on the tomato meter. Um,
Mm.
so now what's going to happen is, on the regular version of the film, of the podcast, we are going to cut to the conclusion. And right now, what we're going to do on the Patreon only version is we are going to talk about our little mini award ceremony that we have going.
Okay.
With that being said, that has been the Screenwrite Podcast, episode 2. I'm gonna try to fix my mic, my Shure, so next week it can sound better. Um, but for now, this has been the end. Star Wars Return of the Jedi was released in 1983 and mostly satisfied the now cult fan base. Um, and now that this trilogy is over, join us next week for Star Wars episode. Just kidding.
I
We
was gonna
stopped
cry.
that.
I was gonna cry. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I was gonna cry.
But no, so we were originally, I was gonna do all 9 episodes, but now that we're in podcast format, we're gonna try to break it up more and include more films that each of us know. So Star Wars was a very me film. Maybe for next week, either Dion or Lauren can pick a film, like
Lauren's
50 Shades
picking.
of Grey.
No. It would be my favorite movie ever. A Star is Born.
we could
Dion,
we
shut
could do
up.
a Star
I
is Born.
love that. That movie made me cry.
Are you talking to Lady Gaga, Bradley
Lady
Cooper?
Gaga new one. I don't like the old one that
Yep.
much. Didn't hit the same. Maybe it's the acting, like the acting style.
Mhm.
That movie is my favorite movie ever.
Mhm. We could do that for sure. I think that would be great. Um, so we'll confirm that. So if you're watching this here on YouTube and like, what the fuck, um, we didn't get a Stars Born this week. We're just gonna confirm it, but I think that's a good choice. I've never seen it. I've wanted to because I love Lady Gaga. Um, but yeah, for now, this, like I said, this has been the Screenwrite. If you want to be notified when next week's video comes out, because for now I'm posting this on YouTube. Next week we're gonna be, when I get my mic fixed, which I think will be by next week, we'll start going to Spotify. Because no offense with this mic quality, I think it might be best to wait. um, but yeah, so for now, since you'll probably be watching this on YouTube if you're hearing this specific one, make sure to be notified for when next week's video comes out. And make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon. Leaving a like also helps me greatly and comes at no cost to you. Patrons get videos a day early. Well, a specific tier of patrons gets videos a day early. And there is more to this podcast for our award ceremony that you can watch on the patron only version of this podcast, which you can go to patreon.com/Demize Studios. Demize is spelled with a Z, and become a patron today. In the next, in the mean, whoa, okay, I can't speak. In the meantime, I'll see you next week, Gremlins. Once again, my name is Matt. This is
I'm Dion.
Dion,
And my name is Lauren.
and we'll get her on camera eventually. Uh,
Eventually.
which could still be like a year from now. You never know.
Could be
Uh,
next week. Who knows?
could be. Uh, stay tuned to find out. But have an awesome week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.